what's up, everybody? It's your boy here, MC, and
your honey Asali.
Guys, welcome back again to Swahili Nation.
Swahili to the world.
All right, guys, if you're new to this family, you all know what to do. Welcome. Today, we're going all the way to Rwanda to do reaction on this video that says how Rwanda is becoming the Singapore of Africa. Just to let you know, Rwanda is one of the good countries in Africa, and it's the cleanest country in Africa. It's the clean, man. It's the clean. Can you imagine that? It's clean.
Makes sense.
You know what I'm saying? So shout out to Rwanda. You know? That's a good thing, right?
It's hard to keep it clean.
Are you clean?
I am so clean. Oh my goodness! I took a good
See, she cannot
shower.
even talk because I'm not sure
shower
about that.
So good.
Okay. All right, Asali. Anything you wanna learn in Swahili? Do you wanna know how to be clean?
Yes. How to be clean? What is that?
Okay. How to be clean in Swahili is jinsi ya kuwa msafi.
Okay, jinsi
ya kuwa msafi.
Msafi.
Yeah, msafi. You better know this, Sally, because it will help you in your life. How to be clean. You know?
I already do, and I am in front of you guys because I am so clean.
No, really?
I'm safi sana, safi sana.
Okay. All right, guys, so without wasting time, we're just gonna go right away to do the reaction for this video. I'm super pumped, super excited because Rwanda is my neighbor country and I love it. I'm Rwandese as well.
Huh?
Yeah, I'm African, so I'm from everywhere, you know what I'm saying?
All right.
So yeah, proud of you, Rwanda.
Okay.
Come on, let's do this. This is big. This is huge.
This video was made possible by CuriosityStream. Watch over 2,000 documentaries for free for 30 days by signing up at the link in the description. Africa is often viewed quite poorly on the world stage. The continent holds plenty of violent, corrupt, and unstable nations and the majority of the world's least developed countries, but Africa is big. There are 54 countries there, and not all fall into the generalizations of the continent as a whole, perhaps most notably Rwanda. One of the easiest ways to compare countries is through their indicators, and Rwanda's are impressive. For every 100,000 residents, Rwanda has, on average, only 2.5 murders per year. As a point of comparison, that's lower than India's 3.2 or the United States' 5.4. It's even more impressive when looking at the kind of neighborhood Rwanda is in. Uganda has 11.5, Tanzania has 7, Burundi has 6, and the Democratic Republic of the Congo has 13.6 murders per 1,000.
Oh damn, that's a lot.
In addition, Rwanda is the 38th least corrupt country in the world. That's not perfect, but on the continent, only Botswana, a far richer country, ranks
South Korea's right there.
The country also has a 67-year life expectancy, tied for 4th best in Africa, and only slightly below the world average. That 67-year number is believable, but what's truly unbelievable is that 25 years ago, the average Rwandan had a life expectancy of 28 years. 25 years ago, Rwanda was in the midst of one of the most horrific genocides in history. In only 100 days, 800,000 Rwandans were murdered in the midst of this ethnic conflict.
Why'd that happen?
The group primarily targeted, the Tutsi, saw the loss of about 75% of its population. With time, though, the country emerged from the other end, peace prevailed, and its indicators began their steady climb upwards to where they are today. It is now the 15th fastest growing economy in the world, as its government has set out a clearly defined mission. They want to become the Singapore of Africa. To understand what this means, though, you have to understand what Singapore is.
All right, Rwanda.
It's easy to forget that East Asia was not the highly developed, economically powerful place it is today 100 years ago. Many refer to the 1800s as Britain's century, the 1900s as America's century, and the 2000s as Asia's century. It's thought that we are currently in the century where Asia will prevail, and one of the countries driving that is Singapore. Singapore sits at the top of all the indicators, not just for Asia, but the world. It's the 8th safest, 3rd richest, 3rd least corrupt, 3rd longest living country in the world. 60 years ago, in the 1960s, Singapore's economy had a size of about $700 million. Today, that number is $320 billion.
That's nice.
In the last 10 years alone, its GDP has doubled. It went from a definitively third world country to a definitively first world country in less than a lifetime. The country is intensely focused on being the business hub for Asia. Of the world's 20 largest companies, 15 have operations in Singapore. It's tough to look at the results of Singapore's economic development without being impressed. They have done the nearly impossible. Some of the ways Singapore has achieved this growth, though, has met some criticism. The way Singapore is run politically has been described as paternalistic. It's not quite authoritarian, but some freedoms are lacking. One of the few indicators that Singapore does not rank at the top of is the Democracy Index. It scores a 6.4 out of 10, which ranks it at 66th in the world and categorizes it as a flawed democracy. The elements of this paternalism range from small things like the country's
based
ban
on the
on
West.
chewing gum for cleanliness purposes to big things like the limitations on freedom of speech, assembly, and the press. To this, proponents would say, look at the results. The country has succeeded economically based off the trade that seemingly more and more countries are embracing. Liberty for prosperity.
Country.
Rwanda has been paying attention. Paul Kagame, its president, declared that mission to turn the country into the Singapore of Africa. And in many ways, it's already well on its way. Arguing that Rwanda is authoritarian is easy. On the same democracy indicator where Singapore is categorized as a flawed democracy, Rwanda earns a score of 3.4 out of 10 and the categorization of authoritarian. Paul Kagame was first elected in 2003, then again in 2010, then again in 2017, with 98.8% of the vote. The US Department of State, though, described that third election as having some, quote, irregularities. That also came after a constitutional amendment lifting term limits to let Kagame take power again. He is clearly well-liked and impressive. He began his career in the military, played a part in toppling the oppressive governments of Uganda, Rwanda, and the DRC, and has been described as, quote, perhaps the most successful general alive. He is by all accounts a military genius, and since his fighting days, he has risen Rwanda from chaos into peace and prosperity, but as a political leader, he himself is still oppressive. Just like Singapore, there are severe limitations on the freedom of speech, assembly, and the press. There are even accusations of Kagame supporting or arranging the assassination of his political opponents. Looking at the ends, though, there are clearly more parallels with Singapore. Singapore's success as a business hub can be attributed to three factors: geographic centrality, political stability, and ease of doing business. As part of Kagame's mission, Rwanda is working to improve these same three factors. For the first factor, Singapore sits as a central point in the world. Within an 8-hour flight, one can get to the major business hubs of the Middle East and the UAE and Qatar, all of India, all of East Asia's major business hubs, and all of Australia. Meanwhile, Rwanda sits only 600 miles or 950 kilometers from the geographic center of Africa. It is about as central as you can get on the enormous continent. For both countries, though, geographic centrality means nothing unless you can actually get to them. One of Singapore's largest companies is Singapore Airlines, often considered one of the best, if not the best, airline in the world. Thanks to this airline, one can get from Singapore to 5 different continents in a matter of hours. It's easy to underestimate the importance of having a globally competitive airline to establish a city as a business hub. It's safe to say that other business hubs, such as Dubai and Doha, would not be as influential as they are today without their airlines. Rwanda has clearly noticed this. Their national airline, Rwandair, which is government-owned, has grown from a tiny operation with a few regional jets to a significant intercontinental airline operating brand new planes. They now fly all around Africa, to Dubai, Brussels, and London, and have even announced plans to start one-stop service to both Guangzhou, China, and New York. While the airline is not yet nearly at the level of some larger players on the continent like Ethiopian Airlines and South African Airways, it's serving its job effectively of connecting Rwanda to the world. The second factor to Singapore's economic success is political stability. The World Bank rates countries in terms of political stability and absence of violence and terrorism, and for this, Singapore, unsurprisingly, comes up in the 99th percentile. Better than almost any country in the world. This is a big reason why a CEO might choose to set up their Asian hub in Singapore over Hong Kong, for example, which only scores in the 75th percentile for political stability and is trending downwards. They want to operate in a place that they know won't change quickly on a political level since there are inherent costs involved with a changing external environment. Rwanda sits at the 48th percentile for this political stability indicator, well in the middle of the pack. This isn't phenomenal, but compared to the sub-Saharan average of 31, it's doing alright. It's a contentious issue whether elements of authoritarianism promote or impede political stability. In Rwanda's case, with so few years under the current form of government, it's tough to know if the country really is stable or not. Rwanda is now, by many accounts, a police state. There are random checkpoints all around the country and strict security at most buildings in Kigali, the capital. Kigali is now one of the cleanest cities in Africa, let alone the world, partially due to a ban on single-use plastics and plastic bags, but also because all able-bodied members of the population are required to participate in a community cleaning day on the last Saturday of each month.
Good for the earth.
According to one report, there's even widespread unlawful detention of what are described as undesirables on the streets. The test of whether this country is truly stable or rather in a state of temporary fear-based obedience might not have yet come. Rwanda has not experienced a transition of power since 2000, and nobody really knows whether the country can continue on the right path after Kagame leaves. He himself even said that if he had not groomed a successor by 2017, quote, "It means that I have not created capacity for a post-me Rwanda. I see this as a personal failure." It's now well past 2017, and Kagame is still in power with no signs of leaving. Regardless of the reasons, though, for Rwanda's current political stability, it's sure that businesses like it. It's one of the top factors to look at when deciding which countries to operate in. The third factor that led to Singapore's business success, ease of doing business, is perhaps the most important one, and it's also the one at which Rwanda most excels. This is a broad factor, but it's one that the World Bank tracks with a well-known indicator, the Ease of Doing Business Index. This looks at 10 factors: ease of starting a business, dealing with construction permits, getting electricity, registering property, getting credit, protecting minority investors, paying taxes, trading across borders, enforcing contracts, and resolving insolvency.
I feel like I'm in
Singapore
school,
ranks
you
at
know
number 2 in the world behind New Zealand and is followed up by Denmark, Hong Kong, and South Korea. Rwanda, meanwhile, scores as the 29th. This is an impressive score by itself, but it is incredibly impressive when considering how the rest of the continent ranks up. Rwanda is by far the highest ranked among mainland African nations. The nearest trailing African nation is Morocco at number 60, and plenty of highly developed countries like the Netherlands, Switzerland, and Japan rank lower than Rwanda. To achieve this, Rwanda has made plenty of economic and legislative reforms to foster the business-friendly environment. They've also been focusing on building both soft and hard infrastructure. The government, in collaboration with private investors, built an enormous $300 million convention center along with a 5-star Radisson Blu hotel to attract the convention market, in addition to less flashy infrastructure projects building roads and airports. Overall, Rwanda is on the hunt for international investment in the country, and so far, that's paid off.
That's good.
In 2005, $10.5 million were invested from abroad in Rwanda. In 2017, that number was $293 million. Clearly, a lot is working in Rwanda. It's safe, clean, and growing economically. What more could a country want? Well, there are serious questions from abroad on whether Rwanda's growth is ethical, replicatable, sustainable, and even real. The way Rwanda has achieved its current stability and growth has some external observers condemning it. Appearances of Rwanda can also be deceiving. It is still one of the poorest countries in the world, with the average resident earning only $750 a year. Some question whether the country should be spending so much on its airline, its infrastructure, and its capital when so many in the country are so poor. Some question whether the country is growing for its middle and upper class while leaving its rural poor behind. It's no surprise, though, that many of the country's neighbors, curbed by violence and poverty, have pondered whether they should be replicating the ways of Kagame. External observers have given mixed answers to that question. Some believe that the current authoritarian policies will let dissent bottle up and eventually explode. They worry that the country will erupt into violence again. Some say that the current regime is solely focused on making things seem like they're improving through climbing up in the indicators without making real, rational change. There are even some accusations that Rwandan GDP growth figures might be inflated or otherwise manipulated. It's sure that Rwanda has been growing enormously, but is it really this much? There is no one recipe for economic growth. The fact that the United States became the superpower of the 20th century and China is becoming the superpower of the 21st century proves that more than anything. Democratic states grow and autocratic states grow. They might grow in different ways, but there are success stories on both ends of the spectrum. What external observers have so much trouble answering is the means to the end question. Should Rwanda's growth be lauded given how it is achieved? Can you tolerate some bad in exchange for much good? In the end, Rwanda is the country of Rwandans, and they are the only ones that matter with these questions. If Rwanda is truly working for all Rwandans, then Rwanda is working. There are a lot of ifs, but if Rwandan growth is sustainable, and if Rwandan politics are stable, and if Rwanda's investments pay off, and if businesses pay attention to Rwanda,
we are external opinions too, you know that, right?
The country is becoming the Singapore of Africa.
Every Africa will say this.
I'll tell you the truth. Singapore, there's a fascinating documentary on Curiosity Stream about how the country.
All right, guys, I really appreciate. Wow. Okay, Sally. Yeah. Anything you wanna put there? Your thought.
There are so much consequences. You know, good things are happening, and at the same time, I heard that there's still a limitation on freedom of speech. And how there are random police security checkups in the road.
That's the only thing you heard?
No, of course I heard other things, how they're impressively doing well. But those are the ones that really got me like, wow, with these much achievements, with this much achievement, you have this much to give up on. So it's like really, you know, it's a complex dynamic, you know, for the country. And then you have to give up on some things. But as long as, what do you guys think? We need our people from there too.
First
Speak
of all,
out.
yeah, first of all, I just want to shout out to Rwanda, and Rwandan government for all the good you guys are doing out there. This is what I believe, Asad. I believe that when it comes to a specific country, when it comes to development, when it comes to everything, you gotta leave it to that country. I have a couple of examples in Africa. Couple leaders that they were actually taken away by the Western world. For example, Libya, Muammar Gaddafi, and then you go to Zimbabwe as well, Robert Mugabe. These are a few countries that Western countries, they actually invade out of the excuse that it has been having authoritarian government. Exactly, authoritarian government. So they took them down. But then what really happened is that right now the state of those countries are worse than it was than ever before. Those people who are there, let's say Zimbabwean, they really miss Mugabe right now. They say, okay, it's true, we were still having some challenges, but it's worse than right now because the new president is kind of like the puppet of the Western world, and the same thing is going on in Libya as well. So when you look at the different African countries, and for a person like specifically in Rwanda, and looking at the president, that's the guy who saved in the country for a long time and saved as a soldier for such a long time during the hard time of, they lost more than almost 1 million people. They died during the Rwandan genocide. That was crazy, and that guy, he was there serving. So he really understands and he really knows the road of the country, and he has the burden for the country. He has that heart for the country because you can see the moves he done. And one of the things right now, if you go to YouTube, you'll find a lot of videos of this president, actually, because he's one of the best presidents in Africa, of all the things he's doing and how he has been very resistant to the Western world, because he kind of know what they truly want, what they truly want to get, and he has been very resistant. He kind of he's the gene of Magufuli. They were actually presidents that were spoken hugely and highly back in Africa. And so for that case, I really applaud Ron, because what is going on right there, not just Africa sees, but the world sees. And to be very honest, it doesn't like it, because if you were developed just because of your own effort, it proves that African, we can make changes by our own without any help. We can make changes with our own because we are smart, good, we know what to do, we know what we want. So that guy is proving that. He's sending that message all over the world, and people, they don't really like what he's doing. So, but when you meet up with Rwandese people, because I have a lot of friends, yes, I know there's a challenges that people, they can always face, democratic challenges. And one of the interviews that he answered before, he was like, you know what, the Democrats he was having this interview with CNN. He said the Democrats in the US is not the Democrats in Africa. And there's a lot of failure when you go to the US when it comes to democracy, things that are going on right there. And also we have our own challenges that we're facing. So you cannot want us to copy and to do what you guys want to do in our country. It's our country. We know what we do. We know what to do, and we're gonna do what we really want to do for our country and for the good of our people. And that's what I really admire, and I salute. Whatever challenges that are there, I know that it's not gonna be every day. It's not gonna be there forever. Every country has their own challenges, and they need to work out. There's no perfect country. There's no perfect leader in this world. But the most important thing is seeing how the country is developing from where it used to be all the way lower there, but right now is growing and grinding. So shout out to that, and that is something to appreciate. You know what I'm saying?
Wow. That was long.
But yes, because I'm telling you, I have a lot more than this, and I hope you're listening to this because you don't know.
And you think I talk too much?
No, I'm trying to give it to you I'm trying to give to you some things that you are not aware of that is going on there in Rwanda, because it's very important for you to know all these details, and then to understand why this is happening the way it's happening, and why it has to happen this way. But yeah. And the last word I would say that get your hands off Africa, all right?
Never mind.
Leave Africa
I'll
for
stop.
Africans.
Well, I was gonna say it's really heartbreaking. Let me talk too. My goodness, it's really heartbreaking.
I didn't finish. I was still talking. Now
Really?
Now you have a chance to talk. Kigali should be great from trying to give you some facts that
you're
you are
giving
not
me.
aware of.
Oh my goodness. Well, guys,
Did you know
it really sucks that how we have limited of resources and how it's really tough being a leader. You know, you wouldn't know until you are one, and I am not one. But just imagining it, seeing it from a third-person perspective, where where his people there are people that are still in poverty in his home country, but also he's trying to spend money for infrastructure and the airlines as well, like just like Magufuli did. It's really tough. It's a really tough decision because, so much you can do. But honestly, I think he's a futuristic person. Like he sees the future, not just right now.
I gotta say that is everywhere. Even when you go to the US, you come to Korea, you find people living in absolute poverty in this country as well. I'm living right here. You go to the US, it's the same thing. You go to any country. So every country in this world, poverty is something that they're facing.
Of course, I mentioned it. Don't get me wrong. I mentioned it because it was mentioned in the video.
Yes, in the video, and this is the research that has been done by somebody else. So you are not really sure 100% because I haven't been in Rwanda and seeing those people living in that the same way that he has been formed, or it has been portrayed in the video. But what I can say is infrastructure is the most important thing, especially in African countries, because that's where the economy changes. When you build infrastructure in the country, which means roads, railways, airplane transportation, this is what actually generates the economy of the country. Today you'll be able to do business, economic. I studied economics, so I understand these things. When you build railway from Rwanda, Kigali, all the way to Bujumbura, Burundi, all the way to Tanzania and Kenya and Uganda or Congo, what happens is all this business, this one railway will connect all these countries together and it will generate business. And what happened, those people with low capital income every year, they'll be able to do their business and earn their money. The same thing to roads, the same thing to airplane, the same thing. So infrastructure in Africa is a very important thing, and that's what Magufuli, president of Tanzania, has been trying to do for the past couple of years as he was there. And that's what actually can help. So right now, things they might not show right away that everything is fine. It will never be like that. But after 5 years, after 10 years, after 20 years, you start seeing the impact of what he has been doing right now. So definitely, yeah, we are together in that.
I mean, we're seeing the impact already. It's the cleanest city, and comparative to other African countries, it's doing so well.
Yeah, Kigali. Anyways, guys, I'm just gonna stop right here, and you guys, if you have any opinions, I know we'll have a lot of Rwandese right here in this video. Let us know how is the love there in Rwanda. We'd love to know, how do you guys live and how do you see your country in the coming few years and all those. But all in all, one Africa, y'all. Swahili nation.
Swahili to the world.
Don't forget to love one another and spread peace
wherever you are.
Salute, yo.